would say that my story for, this drive to bring people together and to really connect to people starts with my own story as an immigrant. I migrated at the age of 13 from El Salvador, and I think about that moment when, after traveling through 3 countries and really learning as I went. I can't even remember how long the journey was, but I got to a point as I was about to cross the border with my niece. It was a 3-year-old niece and 2-year-old nephew. My 2-year-old nephew always, during the whole journey on my side, he wouldn't let go of me, and my 3-year-old niece on the other hand. We got to the border just right as we were going to cross the border. I had been trained for like 2 months. This is a story you got to tell, and so I've been practicing. I had to really build like a new identity about who I was. So I get to the checkpoint, and I begin to tell the story. This woman's my mother. This is my little sister and my brother, and we're just, we're going to the other side because we just came for vacation. I've never been a good liar, so the story didn't sell, and immediately I was pulled aside. The other woman was pulled aside, and we were separated. Then they proceeded to separate my niece and my nephew from me, and they took us to different rooms. And all this time, that my niece and nephew were both like screaming, yelling, and so was I. They separated us. They put us in different rooms. But the whole time I was in a room by myself. I honestly can't tell you. I don't remember exactly how long I was there or how long we were detained. But I remember officers constantly coming in and out of the room. The whole time I was hearing my niece and my nephew cry in the other room. There was a table. I was sitting by a table, so eventually I fell asleep after my niece and nephew. I didn't hear them crying anymore. I heard them, I went to sleep just right on the table. Then officers came later, woke me up, and the conversation was like, look, we know you're lying. We know that this woman's not your mother, and if you don't tell us the truth, those kids again, you're never gonna see them. You're gonna go in a different place. They're gonna go in a different place. At that moment, I really just broke down because my niece and nephew, I had been taking care of them for at least a year and a half since my sisters had migrated before I did. And, and at that moment, I just sort of I was probably tired, scared, and everything else. I just said, I broke down and said, that's my niece, my nephew. My mother died when I was 6 years old, and my sisters who are in Houston are the only family I have left. I have nobody to go back to in El Salvador. And, at that moment, I just believed that something miraculous happened, that I just, I still to this day is the reason why I'm here. So at that moment, the men stepped out. Then they came back in and, asked me to join them. We walked, and then they joined me with my niece and my nephew and the woman who was bringing us. And they walked us outside of the building, and then they told the one man, by that time it was only one officer, told the woman who was bringing us, I'm gonna turn around for 10 minutes and pretend that I don't see you. I want you to take these kids and turn them over to their family. And so after that, we crossed the bridge, and on the other side, there was a car waiting. My niece, my nephew, and I got in the back seat of the car. We were exhausted. I remember we passed out, we went to sleep, and didn't wake up until we got to Houston. And I always think about, I don't know who that man is. I don't remember his face. I don't know his name. But I do remember that something about what I said in that moment touched him deeply, to feel compassion and to do the right thing, because that moment where he decided to defy whatever laws he was trying to, feeling like he had to enforce, that in that moment, that my story must have touched him at a deep level, that he decided to break with the law, and which is unjust, and try to do the right thing based on what my story was and what the circumstance was. And so I believe in that power, the power of being able to touch people by connecting and by telling your story. Because somewhere deep inside of us, there's that need to be heard, and the need, like that compassion, and it's the power of humanity when we actually can feel that. And it was because of that moment that changed my life, and has me here now.